Hello, hello. All right. So I am talking today about FBAs and BIPs because I think I talked myself out of them so much last week that I'm kind of fed up, to be quite honest. I had to teach so many school districts how to write a BIP. And that is not cool. It's not my job. It's not my job to teach you how to write a BIP. And, I say this all the time. And before I introduce myself and talk to you for a moment, it is not my job, as experienced as I am in behaviors and the fact that I've written FBAs and BIPs under the supervision of a BCBA, because I'm 3 months shy of finishing my BCBA, but I had to stop a couple years ago because of things with Skylar. But it isn't my cup of tea, but I do have the extensive amount of training and have done hundreds of FBAs and BIPs. So with that said, it's still not my job to teach school districts how to write them. However, I was taught by some amazing BCBAs in the community and all over the United States, and had amazing professors. And how an FBA is conducted, the results and the interpretation of the person who conducted it is really gonna be your tell-all in your BIP. So what I mean by that is in many districts, they will, one, do it as a team. Well, teams don't write FBAs or BIPs. Well, they don't write BIPs or do FBAs. Okay. And teams are not the most qualified individuals to do that. That's like saying, oh, well, I'm a team with a bunch of doctors in psychology, so I get to decide XYZ. It just doesn't work like that. I don't understand how the world of education seems to kind of downplay certain areas that are so important. We have kids being suspended. We have kids being sent home just because we don't want to deal with them. Let me just send them home early. We're going to give you a half day because you got behavior problems in the afternoon. There's all these different things that are happening, and it's all because things are not in place how they're supposed to be. Whose problem is that? It becomes our problem, but it's not initially our problem. And, it's not okay. So we're going to talk about this. Okay. Get out your pieces of paper and pencils if you're wanting to take some notes. I'm not going to be on here long. I always say that. Don't believe me. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Raven Woods. I'm the CEO and founder of Autism Mama Rocks IEP, and I help parents gain the knowledge and the confidence to become the CEO of their IEP meeting. If it's your first through third time catching me live, post a 1 below. If it's your third and on or fourth and on, post a 2 below, because you're now an oldie but goodie. Okay. Make sure you say hello. Tell us where you're from. If you haven't joined the group in Facebook, go to Autism Mama Rocks IEP group and join the group in Facebook. It's a pretty amazing group. And so moving on. Okay. So if you have questions, post them in the comments. My family's getting ready to eat. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go live real quick. And my husband's like, yeah, okay. Yeah. Real quick. Because I think we all know when Raven goes live and she says, oh, she's just going to look live for a minute. An hour and 15 minutes later, she's done. Okay. I'm really going to try. Okay. Or maybe I'll do a series with this, like maybe three parts, and then I kind of cut it up. And I tell parents, they're like, oh my gosh, you went on for so long. I couldn't finish it all. I'm finishing it all tomorrow. And I'm like, you know what? Just cut it in 15-minute increments and just listen to me for 15 minutes and then go about it your day and then 15 more minutes. And one of my parents was like, well, I listened to you in the car on my way home. And I was like, oh, that works. Okay. So here's the deal. So I've written multiple BIPs. This is one of them that I have written. And I I love actually behavior and reading are definitely my jam. And I love behavior because I love reading too, because it's one of those things that builds. But behavior is like that puzzle of trying to figure out what's going on. Now, granted, none of us like the behavior, right? Because it's a negative behavior. But at the same time, I really like to figure out what is going on with the student, what's going on before things happen, okay, which seems to be the problem in these BIPs that are being created. And, these FBAs that I'm seeing, that is a complete joke. I mean, when I say, I don't downplay things unless it is what it is, one of my friends who's an advocate, she's really, getting the brunt of things now because she's growing. And as you grow, you get, lots of people who are critical, and, but she's amazing. So, and she's keeping on because we do what we do, because we love what we do, and we love the kids, and we want them to have amazing IEPs and a great education. But boy, do people have opinions. So, I told her, who cares what they say? So bottom line, FBA. So for those of you who don't know what an FBA is, it's a functional behavior assessment. All right. It's when any child, okay, is having a behavior issue or issues, okay, and it can be serious or not, okay. It can be as simple. I mean, people think that this one, people think escape. Okay. Escape is actually very simple behavior when it's escape from work. All right. I escape a lot. I mean, we all do, right? So that is an easy fix, and it's an easy one to, address if addressed appropriately. All right. Now, escape as in running away out of the room, etc. That one is a lot more difficult, and it poses a safety issue. So we have two different types of escape. Okay. We have aggression. All right. Aggression, when it could be where you're and like just losing it, or it can be kicking and hitting and hurting other people. Or it can be kicking and hitting and hurting yourself, throwing things, you name it. Okay. Everything that comes with aggression. Now, yelling, some people can put it under aggression, if it's just kind of like that roar and, we're just letting it all out. All right. And it's an aggressive type yell. But it also can just go under yelling. Okay. There are so many different behaviors that are out there. A very popular one that seems to be missed is attention-seeking behavior. Very rarely do I see in a BIP anymore attention-seeking behavior. And lots of children have attention-seeking behavior and will even go to the extent, okay, of whether it's positive or negative. If it's attention, it's attention. And, that is actually typically, never is it always, and never is it never. I just totally contradicted myself, but you know what I'm saying. All right. And one of the things that is important to remember is if it's dealt with appropriately and data is taken, okay? Many times I'll see BIPs put together and they're not right. I mean, they're not even written right. And I will say New York actually has a good laid out plan because they were sued out the wazoo. And so they were then required to have a laid out plan. So actually on their sheet has the directions of what to do, but they still screw it up. I'm like, I was just looking at one today. I was like, your antecedent, that doesn't make sense. No, we need to, change that. We need to make sure that it sounds right. And we need to make sure that it is written right. And it, let me grab it and I'll go over it with you, because, it's one of those things where we've got to pay attention to this stuff. So this BIP, all right, is actually written right because New York was ordered to have these laid out BIPs now because they failed children and would fail to do the FBAs and would fail to do, BIPs for the students. And so it was a big lawsuit thing. And so now they have this plan, and it actually has the laws and everything, and it's written out for them. And then they actually even have check marks and everything else. But bottom line, okay, it says settings and events, which is actually accurate. All right. And it should, settings and events is what's going on, all right, in that environment that is and could cause a problem. All right. So settings and events is basically, are you outside at the park? Are you at recess? Are you at lunch? Are you at PT? Are you at, reading, whatever it is. And then another thing that has to go into this area is what time? What time is it? Look at your FBAs and BIPs and tell me if there's a time on it. You have to know the time. If it's at 9 o'clock, it's at 9 o'clock in the morning. What's happening at 9 a.m. every morning that around 9 o'clock a behavior is occurring? At 12 o'clock, a behavior is occurring. If it's all day, it's all day. I get it. Or if it's a couple times a week, it's a couple times a week. But there are students that have behaviors consistently at certain paces and times throughout the day. And those are the cases that you need to really figure out and pinpoint what is happening. All right. The setting is where. All right. And the antecedent is what. Okay. So setting is where. All right. You need to know the setting. Where is it happening? Around what time? Okay. And then the antecedent is what? What is occurring before that behavior happens? All right. So let's just say the setting is recess. All right. And let's just say it's at, 1 o'clock. Okay. And then let's just say that there are noises that's happening when the kids are playing hopscotch or the jump rope. Kids are playing jump rope, and that jump rope keeps hitting, and this is a true story, keeps hitting the ground as the kids are turning it. You remember that, like, double dutch? I used to do that stuff. Cannot do it to save my life now. Okay, I cannot do it now. All right, but I used to do it. But as it hits the ground, do you know, I have a child that I worked with that would set them off, that hitting on the ground of the jump rope. All right. So what was the setting? Recess and outside. All right. What was the time? 1 o'clock-ish. Okay. And what was the antecedent? What was happening before that behavior occurred? Jumping rope. All right. Let's just give you an example. All right. But that's what they should be putting down. Okay. Not, this is what they put for settings. Okay. History of behavior, impact, recent ongoing events, physical health, medical condition, student's name, has diagnosis of ADHD. Huh? How's that a setting and event or time? Did I miss something? All right. So after the antecedent, all right, which is the what's occurring before that behavior happens. All right. The setting is where and time. All right. So you need to know where and what time and what's happening before that behavior occurs. That's the puzzle piece that can be fun actually to figure out. And then you hit the target behavior. All right. What's the behavior that's happening from what's going on? All right. And I had a school district tell me today, well, we don't always know what's going on. We don't know. We don't have a reason. He just does it. Well, no, I understand that not every time you're going to have and figure out a reason, because none of us in life do things all the time and have one heck of a reason. This is why I did it. This is it. Sometimes we just do what we do. But typically there is something that caused that person to be pissed off, okay? Or caused that behavior, all right? There's something that happened, okay? And so if a student's behavior disrupts a classroom, you have to address the the problem by manipulating the events that follow the misbehavior. Okay? Does that make sense? For example, okay, you can have verbal reprimands, isolation. There's different things that can go into play that is happening at school. All right. They do detention, they do suspension, they do all these different things. But a lot of times those types of things don't work. All right. So what's important is determining why they're doing what they're doing and resolving the why. Okay. Or supporting them by modeling and showing them by a direct and explicit approach in how to go about changing that negative behavior into a positive one. Many times I'll see FBAs and then BIPs put together. No, my puppy's in here. Where there's no place where it's written out where it says this is how we're going to teach them how to replace that negative behavior. I've always said the antecedent and the replacement behavior are two of the most important things. And if you don't do that, then what are you going to do? I mean, sorry. So you have to understand what's going on, what's causing the behavior. And then you have to understand that you need to teach that child how to replace that negative behavior. There's something that's hindering them, which is typically their disability. But I don't try to guess. It's typically their disability, but it could be other things. Where we have to teach. And many times it's like the easy way out is the easiest way, or schools are not wanting to deal with children and they're sending kids home early. And that's become another problem. And so what's really important and the logic behind the FBA is, and how do you say this so that I want everybody to really understand this, is that all behavior occurs within a particular context and typically serves a specific purpose. Okay? And they'll change their behaviors when it's clear that a different response and more effective and efficient response is given. And it's really about the efficiency and the result and the desired outcome. All right. So they're wanting something to occur. Let me give you an example. A child that wants to escape from doing work that they don't like. Okay. So unpreferred activity, worksheet, work, etc. All right. Say they don't like writing. So during writing, they're disruptive and they're screaming and they're throwing their pencil and they're crinkling up their paper and throwing it against the wall and, things like that. Well, they're trying to get out of something that they don't want to do. And the reason why, okay, typically, that they don't want to do it, let's just talk about writing, is because one, they may not be very good at it. Okay. It's a struggle. Two, many children that I work with have weakness in their hands and their motor and their movements to where writing can actually be quite painful for them. So again, it's not a exciting type of activity because it has caused pain. And some children just don't like it. Okay. There's not always a reason. There's your non-reason. They just don't like it. But that actually is a reason within itself. and is a reason for behaviors to occur. I don't want to do it, so I'm going to act out. I don't want to do it, so I'm going to rip up my paper. Okay? So that's when we need to hone in. What is that target behavior? What is it? The target behavior is escape. Okay? And because they want to escape from writing, they're going to throw paper, crinkle paper, yell, scream, cause a scene, whatever it is. Okay? Because they don't want to write. All right? And so what do we do? What do we do about that? They don't want to write. They're acting out. Oh, they're just bad kids. All right? No, they're not bad kids. They just don't want to do something because that for one reason or another, something's difficult there. All right? You know, I've had kids that are very verbal who've said, I feel stupid. I don't want to do that. I can't do that. That's too difficult. So-and-so laughed at me, you know? And then I have kids where they're nonverbal and you have to play that guessing game and figure out that puzzle. Is it just difficult? Is it something they're unable to do? Do we need to put modifications in place? Is everything in place that is going to support that child in order for them to make progress? Because if we can't do anything, if we can't do something, you or I, we're going to get frustrated, right? Well, same with the kids. If they can't do something or they feel something's difficult or they feel something is just, you know, it's just, I hated math. Everybody knows that, right? So I hated math. If I could skip math in high school, I would skip it, you know? So what did I do? I avoided going to math many times because I hated it. I wasn't good at it. All right. And so people do that. A lot of times people complicate, and I mean, the ones that are doing these FBAs and BIPs that are not BCBAs are not thinking outside the box. A lot of these behaviors, you know, that are not the extreme, are behaviors that many people display. It's just maybe not as apparent because it's happening in school and, you know, maybe happening every day, you know, different things are happening and, you know, you're getting your reports home of your child did this, that, and the other, but nothing.
I want to lie.
Yes.
I'll take out the lie.
Okay. But none of us are actually getting anything home that says, oh, this is what happened. Let me paint this picture for you. And then that's why Sarah or Gabe, or I'm just making up names, or Raven or whoever did what they did. No. You get, oh, he threw paper across the room. He didn't want to do his work. So if we changed our thought process and tried to figure out, okay, why is he throwing paper across the room? Is there a sensory going on? Is sensory issues? I mean, kids do many different things. All right. Writing. I have a teacher who said she grabs the child's hand to squeeze it and he writes with the other hand because of that sensory stimulation. He needs that. And I asked the teacher, and this was actually today. I said, does he need that? Do you need to hold his hand, or is there something we can give him, like a squishy ball that he can use instead of, you know, being dependent on you holding his hand? And she said, well, he actually likes the squeezing of the hand. She didn't seem to mind it, and she was a great teacher. I said, okay. She was very clear on the fact that, no, I think that would be a little bit more distracting. He likes the physical touch. And I said, okay. She figured it out. I mean, she's a 20 plus year teacher, but sometimes you get that opposite thing going on where you have the younger ones who are open to learning new things. And, you know, the ones who are have been teachers for forever, you know, they don't want to pick up that new stuff. They're just set in their ways. But this teacher, she's 20, 30 years, I want to say. But I mean, she knew her stuff. And, you know, he likes the holding of the hand and the squeezing of the hand and that sensory stimulation. I thought, she's got a handle, you know, and she was very clear on, you know, what needed to happen in order for him to accomplish the work. All right. So once we figure out that antecedent, all right, we figured out the target behavior. All right. Doesn't want to do the work. crinkling up papers, throwing things, throwing a fit, screaming and yelling because he doesn't want to do writing. All right. So we figured out that writing is a unpreferred activity. And we also figured out that, there's weakness in the hand. All right. Of things that I've been saying right now to you. All right. So what are we going to do to help that child with the writing? Forget about the behavior for a second. What are we going to help them do with the writing? The writing is the problem, not the behavior. The writing. The behavior is the reaction to the problem. So we have to focus on the problem, not the child, not the behavior, the problem. When we focus on the problem, then we get resolution. If we focus on the child's bad. The child's not listening. The child's not focused. The child's not paying attention. The child's this, the child's that. The behavior's this, the behavior's that. Separate those from the problem. The problem isn't the behavior of the child. The problem is what is causing the behavior from the child. And when we figure that out, we're able to then solve the damn problem. But for some reason, it gets too complicated. I don't know. I can't make excuses, but I can just tell you that the reason why behaviors are escalating is because FBAs aren't being done right. If an FBA isn't done right, a BIP cannot be written right. And if a BIP isn't written right, then there's no way to implement a strategy or antecedent strategies that are going to resolve a problem and target behavior from happening, because we're being lazy and we're not addressing things that need to be addressed in the order in which they need to happen. And if we don't do a good observation and don't go more than 1 or 2 times and don't talk to various people who work with that student and then go observe more and more and really get a good picture of that student and then be able to write a really good FBA in order to then create a hell of a BIP. All right. And you have to write a good FBA in order to create a good BIP. Okay. So I know that psychologists can do BIPs. They can do FBAs. There's some that can do really good ones. And there's some that have no idea what they're doing, but will tell you they know what they're doing. Now, psychologists are great for a lot of things. Sometimes it's just not behavior. Or doing FBAs and BIPs. That doesn't mean they're a bad psychologist. It just means that that's not their cup of tea. Okay? So conducting an FBA, you have to look at describing and defining the target behavior in specific and concrete terms. Not blah, and that's it. It has to be described in detail. What's going on? What's happening? Okay. Then they have to collect a ton of information. All right. So you have indirect and direct measures of behavior. That needs to be noted in the FBA. You also need to have the accuracy of behavior measured. You want to make sure that's checked. And then you have categorized behavior. All right. So that's linked to a skill deficit or performance deficit. All right. Then you have to analyze the information and bring about the hypothesis. All right. Of what do you presume the function and the target behavior is, or the function of the behavior. Okay. And then you have to devise interventions and develop a BIP if that's necessary. All right. And so when you do that, there's a way to do that. All right. And so when you identify and define the problem, all right, that can be, Sarah is aggressive. That could be, Sarah is disruptive. It could be Sarah is hyperactive. All right. The concrete definition for example, aggressive is she hits other students, all right, during recess, all right? Or if disruption is the issue, it could be they are doing inappropriate things during circle time, all right? Hyperactive, that can be they're unable to sit in their seats for long periods of time. They're able to do a lot of their work independently. Okay, so there's different things that go into play. All right. So, and in assessing the child's behavior, it's important to consider whether a particular response may relate to a cultural difference or expectation. That is a key thing that seems to be ignored a lot. All right. So that is very, very important. All right. The next thing is collection of information and determining the function. All right. That's your antecedent, your consequence, your events, preceding or following the behavior. All right. So that is very important as well. And you need to ensure that your FBAs cover this information, because if you don't collect the right information, you're not going to be able to create a good BIP. If you don't create a good BIP, then the behavior is not going to go away. In fact, it actually can increase. And if it increases, then you're going to run into a lot of issues, may even deal with suspensions and so forth, and then play that game and then figure out if the suspension is a manifestation of the behavior and have to deal with all that stuff that you don't want to deal with. And so you want to really nip things in the bud as soon as you can. And in order to do that, a good FBA has to be done, a BIP put in place, even for the most simplistic behaviors. A lot of schools will say, oh, we'll put a goal together or we'll accommodate them. Now, for minor things, okay, you can give it a chance, possibly. But in reality, even if it's just one or two behaviors, it's really smart to put together and have an FBA and then a BIP and nip those two behaviors, as minor as they may be, in the bud so that they don't increase or continue to kind of have a domino effect, if you will, and build off one another, which they can do. All right. One behavior can lead to another, to another, to another. It just, then the rest is history. All right. And if the child's not receiving the type of response to that behavior, then it's going to increase as well. And so the person who is implementing the BIP is even more important, because how they respond to that behavior is going to do a couple things, but let's just stick with two. It's going to increase that behavior or decrease that behavior. All right. And many times behaviors are increased. And if you look, you can see more than likely your child's behaviors has increased until someone like myself or you go in and advocate, and then all of a sudden they just disappear. They fly away. These behavior. You advocate and woo, they're gone. All of a sudden behaviors are gone. So it's so important, guys, to really make sure that you address these things. I mean, I spent several hours arguing with a school district on a BIP, and I was not budging. You're going to get this BIP right. You're going to write it right. If I got to write it for you, I will, and you can go copy and paste. But you need to write it right. All right. If not, you're going to implement it wrong. If not, someone training everybody who works with that child, that is key. Everybody who works with that child needs to be trained how to implement that IEP and the BIP with fidelity. And if they can't, that's a big problem. That's a denial of FAPE, and you got problems that just spiral from there. Okay. My Alexa's talking to me. All right, so let's just talk about the antecedent behavior consequence. That's your ABCs, okay? A lot of people know about that one. All right, so your antecedent, like we talked about, is what's happening before the behavior occurs. All right. You got your behavior, which is that target behavior that we talked about, aggression, escape, etc. Okay. Then we have the consequence. What's going to happen if they do XYZ, if they throw a piece of paper, if they say a cuss word, if they, are aggressive with themselves or others? What is it that we're going to do in order to give a consequence to that child, in order to hopefully stop the behavior? Well, I will tell you that I don't like to get to the consequence part. All right. Does it happen? Sure, of course. All right. So we have to get to that point, but we don't want to get to that point. All right. So the teacher could stop the lesson and go to the table and discuss things with the child, have a conversation. It could be where, a pencil is taken, because they're doing something with the pencil. There's different things that can happen that, but the negative is not what we want to focus on. All right. So it's important to really just stick with the antecedent and nix the behavior. But if we get to the behavior, then we want to focus on what are we going to teach them to replace that behavior? Or what are we going to do in order to accommodate them so that the behavior is either going to decrease or stop altogether? And sometimes we have to understand that our children have disabilities and there are going to be behaviors. You and I have behaviors. Did you know that? We have behaviors. Okay. So we can't expect our kids to have no behaviors. All right. But what we want is for their behaviors to be in the more appropriate state and to help them and guide them in order to be able to manipulate the situation. All right. And what I mean by that is we want them to do the work. So we need to manipulate that situation and what's happening in order to ensure that the appropriate actions occur, which is we want them to do the work. And so in order to do that, we have to offer rewards and we have to offer a way and a strategy for them to learn and replace that negative behavior. And so when they learn a new behavior, it will replace the negative behavior, hopefully, because it's the person that's teaching it has made it fun and, has praised the child. And especially if it's an attention-seeking behavior, they're able to encourage and give that child as much love and attention as you possibly can if they're doing that positive replacement behavior. And if it's an attention-seeking behavior, they don't do what they're supposed to be doing, that replacement, that positive behavior that was taught to them. Not paying any mind to the negative behavior is the worst thing, meaning the best thing to do. They hate that. They want the attention. It's an attention-seeking behavior. So to not give that behavior attention, that is horrible. But that's your consequence. The consequence is not to react at all. We're not going to react. It's an attention-seeking behavior. They're doing that to get your attention. So what are we going to do? We're going to ignore that behavior. If they do something that is, replacing that negative behavior, and even if they do a piece of what was taught to them, and hopefully, whoever teaches them a replacement behavior is hopefully modeling it for them and showing them how to do it, that they are hopefully rewarded for that. I think all experts in behavior, they do their own thing. They do what they feel is best. I personally believe that even if they are approaching the positive behavior and say there's a certain amount of things that they need to do for that positive behavior to happen and they do one or two, I believe that should be praised. Because if they're working towards being better and they just haven't accomplished it in full yet, that has to be rewarded. That has to be celebrated, or who's going to want to continue to keep getting better? I'm not going to want to continue to keep getting better if the two things that I did out of the 4 in replacing my negative behavior aren't praised. So setting things up, like you'll hear of the star charts and all of the different things going on, in order to support the behaviors and to support what's happening. And that is a way to manipulate, in a way, the consequence or the reward. All right. Are they going to get the consequence? Are they going to get the reward? And are they doing what you want them to do that causes that behavior? All right. So if it's they need to do the work, they need to finish their work. All right. You can always do that if then approach. If you do this, then this can happen. So there's different things that work for different children. And that's what one has to figure out, because they're not all the same. All right. So moving on. So just remember, what happens just prior to that behavior is key, that antecedent. All right. But what you also want to know is the time and where. All right. And so not just what's going on, but you want to know where and what time. If that's not in your BIP, find out. Okay. Because keeping track of that is key. I always explain that it's important not only to have a way in which to take data, and that to be written down so that you know when you're going to get data and they know how to take data. All right. So if they're taking data, can be taken for behavior by the minute. It can be taken by 15 minutes, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, and it can even be taken by every 3 hours or every day. It could just be a daily thing. Depends on the behavior, depends on the student. Everybody's different. And, the best thing is just someone knowing how to take the data. I'd rather them know how to take the data first. And then we can talk about, okay, when are you going to take it? But it has to at minimum be daily. Weekly is for a child who's been on a BIP for a little while and things are fading. And you're able to really get to that point. All right. We really need to look at the daily or hourly, that sort of thing, especially if it's a newer behavior, a newer BIP, etc. Unless that behavior is fading and things like that, then of course you always want to lengthen it to, if you can do a week or something like that. We always want to get to that point, right? But if that's not where we are, it has to be a daily thing, because I always suggest that at the end of the month, they create a graph for you. So on Monday, on March 1st, the behavior was up here. All right. Let's just say the behavior was, escaping from the writing task. All right. The behavior is up here. But on Tuesday, it was down a little bit. All right. And Wednesday, it was down even further. But Thursday, it went way up. Well, what happened Thursday? Go back to March 4th. All right. And see, okay, what happened on March 4th? Oh, Wednesday night, Sarah went to bed late. Yep, she was tired. Do you see? You can, even the teacher can look back and say, Thursday in PE, an incident happened and he fell or she fell and hurt her knee. And that just, set the tone for the rest of the day. So when we know what happens each day and we see that behavior on that graph, that it went way up, and that visual helps not just you, but it helps the teachers and the staff as well. When they each see that graph and see how the behavior is occurring, when it's happening, when is it more advanced, when has it lessened, what's going on, so that we can really pinpoint those certain areas and be more focused in those areas and be able to create a plan of action. And then that's when success happens. All right, when we have this mindfulness and the person that is implementing this in more of a way than somebody else. For example, the teacher's implementing it more than, say, an OT that gets the child twice a week, right? So it's so important for them to take data on this information, because that data is going to tell them everything that they need to know. And then they're going to be able to pinpoint certain things in order to make things better, or in order to maybe think of different rewards for that child. Okay. And, one of the things that was done in regards to this child that I had an IEP with is the rewards were stupid. I mean, I'm sorry, but the school district, they can go buy your child things. All right. My daughter was bought a bike, and she used it in PT, and it helped with strength and it helped with all kinds of stuff. I was like, I want her to learn to ride a bike. It was good for her low muscle tone. I made it about impact of disability. They bought her a damn bike. Now, when she grew out of it, did they use it on other kids? Of course. Did they use it on other kids as well during the time that Sky was using it? Yes. But they can buy your child things. All right. No more cheapskate. All right. Because I'm sorry, but this child doesn't care about a sticker. All right. Or end of the week treasure chest that has shit toys. All right. Kids know better these days. All right. I know mine does. I mean, mine demanded My Little Ponies, and it had to say My Little Pony. It could not be the dollar store. She knew, and she would throw them across the room, and she knew, that's not a My Little Pony. And so, but she was particular that when you think I'm kidding, I'm not. I'll pull up her incident reports. It had to say My Little Pony. It had to. She liked the little tiny ones, with that movie that came out. But I always say, if the child can talk, ask them what they want. Now, granted, we can't give them the sun and the moon and the stars and $1 million, and you know what I mean? But if it's something that they really want and they're going to work for, and it's a behavior that's really affecting their education, give them the damn toy. All right? Give them the toy. And it is what it is. That's what they get a budget for. If it's an aggressive behavior, and we need to nip that behavior in the bud, and we need to reward, and we need to have positive reinforcement, and we need to have all hands on deck, then we do what we got to do. I don't care how much money you spend. And then there's children who don't need, as much, who don't want, something, grand or whatever. I'm not saying go buy them a computer. I'm just saying, if there's something, I have a child, all right, actually here in Virginia. He's older, and he gets at the end of the week a $25 gift card to Amazon. That's what he wanted. So that's what he gets. I ensured that he got that. The reason he gets that is because that was something he wanted. He's older. He was able to talk. He has severe aggression and behavior issues. And if we can get him on track, and of course these things are faded, of course, but he has a disability. There's not that mindset where we go with it where, oh, no way am I going to, and that's the type of parent I am, but you can't think that way in regards to children with special needs, because they don't think about it like that. You got to change your mindset. All right. So I was always brought up, you don't reward a bad behavior, but what you do reward is if they're trying and attempting and they're wanting to change that behavior, and we have to give them something in order to encourage and incentivize them to do it, because it's a more serious behavior, and so it deems a better reward, then damn it, do it. Because it's a lot better than him hurting himself, which he did. And it's a lot better than him throwing chairs and doing other things that could hurt other children. So if you got to give him a $25 gift card to Amazon because that's what he said, and his behaviors have been pretty darn good, it took a minute, but now they're he has bad days, don't get me wrong, but he's improved, I would say, a good 75%. And why? One, we listen to him. We listen to him. Who am I or you or the teacher to decide what the reward's going to be? What kind of sense does that make? Doesn't make sense. If it's a reward, it's a reward based on something that you like, not what I like or what I'm choosing to give you. I'm not going to work for something that you just hypothetically think that I'm going to work for. Nope, not doing that math today. Nope, sorry. No, I'm not interested in your sticker or you know what I did love, as a kid. Remember those stickers that you would scratch and sniff and it smelled like strawberry shortcake and stuff? Those were fun. But no, seriously, some behaviors you have to do what you got to do. All right. Especially the more serious behaviors. And I always say, listen to the child. If they can tell you, listen to them. And then that's when that conversation piece can happen. Okay. If there's major behavior issues and they can communicate in even a semi-functional way, then ask them what they want. Ask them what they're willing to work for. All right. If you get this is what you want, then you need to do whatever it is you want them to do. And if you don't, then we're not going to do that. And it's the repetitiveness of that. Remember the scratch and sniff? Yeah, those were like the best ever. Or remember when the strawberry shortcake smelled like strawberry shortcake? Oh my God, I love that stuff. I wish I was a kid still. And I used to love Cabbage Patch dolls. That's when I grew up, y'all. And I used to love He-Man. Did anybody remember watching He-Man and She-Ra? Or am I just old? I used to love that show. Okay, so getting back on track. I would totally work for some He-Man and She-Ra stuff. Or those what were they called? Those things that they were like a car and then you could do something with them and then they became like a man. What were those called? Someone's going to tell me. You guys know what I'm called, right? What are they called? Where they were like a car and then the car became like a man, what are they called? Not Nintendo. Shit. Someone tell me. All right. I got your questions, y'all. Transformers. That's right. I used to love those things. All right. So, one of the things that you want to, here's one way to, have you guys heard of VB map? That's a great way to do things. All right. And it's a way that you can conduct an assessment. You can, there's different things that can happen. And a lot of it's done with ABA, but it doesn't have to. All right. But it's a way in which to measure different things to look at, behaviors and so forth. And, one of the things that you want to look at as well is in your data is figuring out what's not working. All right. So we get brick loot. What's that? Brick loot. You need to figure out what's not working. All right. So one of the things that drives me crazy is when I see a BIP that hasn't changed in forever. What does that tell you? All right. If you have a BIP, Legos. Yeah, I love Legos. If you have a BIP and it's been in place and the same goals for forever have been in place, hello, start wondering why. Why is that still a behavior? Why is that still a problem? Is it the child's disability or is it that a BIP is not working? That we need to go back and look at the problem. That means you actually have to do a FBA again. Yep. Or just an observation. You can do that. And figure it out. Yeah, oh my God, how dare us? We gotta go back and figure it out. Yeah, oh my God. We have to go figure out what's not working. Because if you have a BIP in place and let's just say you have 3 behaviors. Let's just say you have eloping, which is like escape. You have throwing objects, you have aggression, and you have yelling. Okay? But 2 of them have not improved in 5 months. Same behavior, same stuff, same things going on. Is that the child? Is that you? What's going on? I'm not saying it's a child or you. I'm just saying what's going on. That's what we got to ask. What is going on? What is not working? Because in all reality, who cares if it's a child or if it's you? It doesn't really matter. We got to solve the problem. So really blaming whose issue it is or whose fault it is isn't going to do any damn good to anybody. So we just got to figure out what the problem is and we have to solve it. So we go back to the table. We solve the problem right from the beginning. Remember I started and I said we got to figure out the problem in order to fix it. And we have to fix the problem. That's the whole point of a BIP, is to fix the problem behavior, that target behavior. All right. And the first thing you want to do is figure out that antecedent in order for that behavior to never happen at all again. But if that's not possible, then that's when we move forward in, okay, what do we need to do in order to decrease that behavior in order for learning to happen, in order for functioning to happen, in order for daily living to happen. Okay. And so we have to make sure that we stay focused on that and don't have a problem going back to the damn table and figuring out, okay, we got to start over. What did we not figure out in this behavior that we should have possibly figured out, or maybe something new has happened? All right. So when you're thinking of putting together a behavior plan, all right, you have to make sure that everything is outlined, and you want an emergency outline. Okay. So you want to make sure that it's specific. All right. I mean as specific as possible. Don't give me 4 sentences. All right. I don't know. This is a behavior that's happening that you're saying is impacting the child's learning. I don't want 4 sentences. I want detail. What's happening? All right. I don't care about your square boxes or what forms you have at the school district. I don't care if you write it on a darn piece of notebook paper and attach it and call it the BIP. As long as it's part of the legal document, I don't care what you write it on. But it's not going to be limited to a damn box. Because behavior is serious and can get very serious. And just like an IEP needs to be implemented with fidelity, that BIP better be implemented with fidelity, where that is a big deal and can be an OCR violation and discrimination and everything else that can happen because of that. And it's important to understand that we use action words and action verbs in describing that behavior. We need to make sure that we include things like body language. We need to make sure that we, address if the behavior includes verbal responses, that we're very clear on that vocabulary. So if that means that you have to say shit in the BIP, then you have to put shit in the BIP. SHIT. Okay, just write it out, put it in the box, all right, or the notebook paper, and make sure it's written out. All right. You need to make sure you have the frequency, the intensity, and the duration of these behaviors. All right. And it should all be supported by direct observation and data collection. All right. And I don't want to see daily communication sheets of your child's bad. All right, just not in so many words. Okay, your child threw paper today and hit himself today and stood up in class today and ran around the room today. Tomorrow he ran out of the room. He said a cuss word. He this, he that. What does that say? Hey, your child's bad. That's what that's saying. Don't send that shit home. All right. If you're going to talk about what's going on in that daily communication sheet, I don't want to hear a statement. I want to hear you painting that picture for that parent. Watch the foot, Sky. Yeah. So you want to make sure that it's described. I don't want to hear your child said a cuss word. I don't want to hear. What do you need? Oh. I don't want to hear your child, got up from a seat and couldn't sit still all day. Okay, well, what are you going to do about it? All right, bye. Love you. Okay. So, no. Paint that picture for that parent. Don't just send home, oh, your child stood up today. So what? Let them stand up. Whoever, I stand up at my desk. Why can't they stand up at their desk? Like, is there some sort of rule that they always got to sit down? Or is that just because it's always been that it's just the appropriate thing? Well, there's always room for change in this world, right? What's it going to impact in learning if a child had to stand up for 10 minutes and then sit back down? Who cares? All right. So again, define the problem behavior, devise a plan and collect data, compare and analyze that data. All right. And then you need to formulate the hypothesis in that behavior assessment and develop and implement that BIP and monitor the plan. All right. Monitor that plan. Monitor that plan. If it doesn't work, go change it. If your child was anything like mine back in the day, she's not anymore. We had a new behavior every month. She would, no joke, guys. She would drop a behavior. She usually had one or two behaviors. She would drop a behavior, pick up a new one the following month. So she still had the two behaviors. Or she would have the one behavior. And that behavior went away. And then another one came. She always had a behavior. But it always changed. Seriously. Sometimes I was just like, oh my God, and like, they would just come, it would be things she'd say or, how she would stim or, it changed by the month. And that can be very frustrating for parents. It is frustrating for parents. It's frustrating for teachers. It's frustrating for staff. But bottom line, once we pinpoint that behavior and we have that light bulb go off of, that behavior is not here anymore. We got this one. That has to be put into the BIP. We still keep the old one. We kind of like leave it there tentatively, let it hang out. But we put that new one in there. And we have to create a plan for that new one. So when we have a BIP, your child, is supposed to be accommodated with that. And they have a new behavior, but that behavior is not in the BIP. Guess what? They're not being served. It's not in writing. It's definitely not happening. You may hear, oh, we're doing this, or, we're doing, what you need to hear with that is when I feel like it, when I think it's appropriate, when I think it's needed, when he or she requests it. When you hear that, those are the things that need to go on in your head. Not there's a laid out plan, but when I think it's appropriate, when I'm going to give it to him, when he or she asks for it. Come on. I have a child that had a plan. All right. And it said, and I said, why aren't you giving him his AAC device? He didn't ask for it. Why the hell do you think he's got an AAC device? Because he's got a speech and language impairment. What the hell do you mean he didn't ask for it? I mean, the shit that I hear is insane. Child's got an AAC device, and you're telling me that you're not giving it to him because he didn't ask for it? You didn't want to know what I want to do to that person when I hear stupid shit like that. I didn't give him his AAC device. Oh, his communication device. All right. I didn't give it to him because he didn't ask for it. His communication device. What the fuck? I don't get it. I'm just going to say how it is. Okay. I mean, what the fuck? All right. All right. Let's move on. Replacement behaviors. All right. Replacement behaviors need to be written and need to be implemented in a positive way. No ands, ifs, or buts about it. All right. It needs to be given to that child in a way in which they're going to respond. And if that means you do this for this child and this for this child, if you got to jump up and down and sing If I'm Happy and You Know It, when they do something good, then damn it, jump up and down and sing If You're Happy and You Know It. You know, the whole point is, I mean, if you got to act like a fool, I mean, I act like a fool when just in general, but with kids, I'm always acting like a fool. You know, I mean, you just have fun. And so if you got to act like a fool to make them happy in order for them to do what is needed for them to learn, then go act like a fool. Jump up and down, sing If You're Happy and You Know It, whatever you got to do so that they comply and want to do it for you. Another thing that I will touch base on, if they don't like you, it doesn't matter if they want to replace that behavior or not, they ain't going to do it. So moms, dads, caregivers, that's one thing you need to know. And that's one thing I had to address with my own daughter is say they have a para or say they have a teacher and for some reason they don't like them. No reason. The teacher didn't do anything. Parent may not have done something, but the child just doesn't like them. Okay. They don't mesh. They're not two peas in a pod. Okay. Then that has to be addressed, especially if there is a behavior. Because if anything, that is going to increase that behavior. All right. If they have to mesh, there has to be some sort of connection. That's what people do. They have connections. So if there's not a connection, you need to address it. All right. And a lot of times you'll hear, oh, you don't get to choose your para. Okay, cool. Pick one. Just change them. But bottom line, you got to address it. You got to continue to be persistent to make sure that change happens. No, you don't get to say, oh, I want Aaron to be the para. No, you can't do that. Even though, you know, you can make the suggestion, you can ask. There's no harm in asking. But I'm just saying, typically, you can't just choose who you want. All right. And they're definitely not going to put a name in the IEP. That's not wise anyway. Okay. Because that person leaves, moves out of the state, whatever, then you got to, you know, take that name out of the IEP. And I mean, it's just not necessary. So those are things that, you know, don't expect those things. Okay. So the other thing that I will just touch base on before we wrap this up, and we're not done with behavior. All right. So I'll continue, but this is a big issue lately. We're going to talk about suspension and the going home early. That's a big problem lately. I don't know if you guys have experienced that, but it seems to be a really big problem. One that I'm addressing now. That I was talking to the superintendent, the attorney. I think I told y'all about this call. And I mean, it's just, they didn't even take any data and the idiots wanted to change places. And I'm like, are y'all out of your damn mind? You take the data, you do the FBA, you put the BIP in place. We look at it in about 4 or 5, 6 months, and then we'll see if the child's placement isn't right. Okay. So just make sure there's strategies in place in order and how and written. Okay. It has to be written. They'll say, oh, we don't have to write that. We're gonna model. Okay. Well, how are you going to model it? What does that look like? Can you paint that picture for me? Use that word a lot. All right. I'll tell you why. Because what you may assume one is saying may not be what they're saying. And you want to know exactly what's going to be done with your child. So ask somebody to paint the picture for you. Paint the picture of what my child's day looks like. Send me the schedule and then have them paint the picture. You may have the schedule and you may know, okay, ELA is at 9:00, Reese's is at 1:00, all this stuff. Have them paint the picture of the day. Have them walk you through the day as if you were living that day. All right. Just because you look at a piece of paper and you know the schedule doesn't mean you know what happens during that day. You just know what's happening when, but you don't know how things are flowing. How is transitions happening? Who's walking with them in the hallway? Are they in a gen ed class in a line? Are they with a para and they're holding the para's hand? You want to know that day as if you were living it with them. Because as the parent, caregiver, grandparent, whoever, you all are the smartest human beings for this child and the best brain to go by. I figured out most, not all, most of Skylar's behaviors, why she did them, and was able to support them in stopping those behaviors, not just because I implemented things at home, but because I was able to pinpoint what that antecedent was. And then it supported the school and the teacher. And so when you get to partake in that, which you're just as much a part of that BIP, just like you are the IEP. All right. And so there's no removal of you from that team. Don't allow that. There's no, oh, we put the BIP in place and it's just set in stone. No, you get to help create that as well. Okay. And so that's important for you to know. And it's important for your input. And it's important for you to be clear on your input. All right. Don't remember in IEPs and take this how you choose. But here's what I mean by it. All right. And you need to take this and run with it because it's going to make a difference. Try it. All right. So when you speak, it's kind of like, this sounds so crazy, but it's kind of like you fake it till you make it. All right. Sounds so crazy. It really does. But everything IEP sounds freaking nuts, doesn't it? Don't preach law. All right. So anybody who goes in and says, according to 300, all right, you need to flip it like I teach in my course and make it about the student and the impact of disability. All right. Same thing with fake it till you make it with you. Know your stuff. If you don't know your stuff, act like you do. And if you don't know your stuff and you're acting like you do is putting you in a position where, as you learn, is what I mean, act like you do as you continue to learn. What I've found has happened to many parents is the school district no longer listens to you anymore. You're a joke. Okay? You're asking, you're telling them this and that and the other, why and this and that, and they don't care. All right? They just got that stop sign and you're over there and they're over here. And even though you know your stuff, they don't give a shit. Okay? And you're getting that, and you're like, well, what the hell? I know what I'm talking about. That's the law. That's what's going on. Why aren't you listening to me? Why aren't you putting this in place? That's what my child needs. The data says this. You could be completely right in everything that you're saying, and they don't give a shit. Because somewhere along the line, you didn't follow through. That's what happened. You didn't follow through. It's your fault. I'm being serious. It's your fault. Now own it, get over it, and who gives a shit and move on. Okay. But you got to change something in order to get that respect back in place. So what a lot of my parents have done is you hire an advocate or whatever, and they go in, take over, get your IEP back in place, and then you go back and take over again. Because guess what that said? Hey, I ain't fucking around anymore. I ain't playing. If you're not going to listen to me, I'm bringing someone else in, and we're going to do whatever we got to do. If we got to make 50 million complaints, if we got to do an OCR complaint, whatever it is we got to do, I'm going to make your life hell till you do what you need to do in order for my child to learn and do the right thing. Okay, so you have to earn that respect. They may not like you. Who cares if they like you? But that respect, as in, if I say I'm going to do it, I don't play with teams. I don't say, hey, I'm going to make an OCR complaint, and then I don't make an OCR complaint. No. You follow through. And if you've had problems, and you've never done anything about it, you're definitely a joke. So that's how they see things. You see it like you're giving them a shot. You see it like you're being understanding. You see it like you're trusting they're doing the right thing. You see it like I'm trying to work as a team. I'm trying to advocate. I'm trying to work with them. They're working with my child. I don't want retaliation. I don't want this. I don't want that. Okay? You're screwing yourself doing that, because I did that. That's how I got totally screwed over, ran over, slam dunk, pancake, piece of shit. I did nothing to help my child by doing nothing and being understanding and caring and giving a shit about them, forgetting about the fact that all the bullshit I was told was just bullshit and words. Nothing changed. You got to give her time. You got to understand she's got disabilities. You got to give it some time. Let's give it to the next IEP. Next IEP came and gone. You got to give it time. Next IEP came and gone. And I remember getting frustrated and more frustrated and more frustrated and having IEPs over and over and over and over and over. And, enough's enough. All right. That's why I say, nope. No tolerance anymore. None. Zero. I have no tolerance. I go in and I clean house. So if that means I got to remove you from the IEP team because you're not a good fit, then that's what I do. Because it has got to be a good fit for the child, for the parent. Because if the parent can't collaborate and feel comfortable in doing so, then someone's got to go, and it's not going to be the parent. And so, some people look at that as, oh, damn, that's not collaborating. Oh, no, we collaborate. But you got to clean house first. Then you can collaborate. You got to fix the problem. And something is the problem. Either someone's saying no all the time, someone's bringing negative energy, something's going on within that IEP team that is a problem, that is getting you that no and that opposition and that negativity that you feel, but it's in a passive aggressive way where you feel like you're freaking nuts. Again, you're gaslit into thinking, okay, am I crazy? Because they're not being intentionally mean. So instead of you seeing it like that, you're seeing it like, am I losing my damn mind? This is not what I wanted. You leave the IEP meeting thinking okay, they weren't mean. They didn't do anything wrong. But, then you get home and then you're pissed off because you're like, that's not true. That's what? And then you're really mad the next day, And so, no. You got to clean house, y'all. You got to clean house. Sometimes cleaning the house is a good thing. I mean, think about it. When you clean house, you feel, I can breathe. Sometimes you got to clean house. And you go in. That's what I try to do. I'm okay with admitting it. I go in, I clean house, I make things a better situation. Granted, they're pissed off for a hot minute that you're not gonna put up with their shit. They could be pissed off for a second that, oh, you actually got a good IEP in order. You got a good, present levels. You got good services. You got the right services. Oh, it actually serves your child. God forbid. Let them be pissed off about that. They can only be pissed off so long. Okay? I'll tell you. I was that parent. If I walked in the door to the school, everybody in the school knew probably within 5 minutes that I was in there. I was in house. Was that embarrassing? No. My daughter was treated like a piece of gold. And every child should be treated that way. And it shouldn't be because I was Nightmare on Elm Street. It should be because that's how they're treated, that they're served and their IEPs are put together properly. There's so many teams that I've come into play with where mom and dad thought that they just brought me in for a small reason and then realized that their IEP was a complete piece of shit. And they were like kind of blindsided at the fact that they thought they were getting along all this time. Well, yeah, you're getting along all this time because you didn't do nothing. And they didn't know they weren't doing nothing. They thought everything was hunky-dory. So you gotta, I always say, like I always feel like that negative Nelly, but I'm gonna stop saying that. I just gotta keep it real because I see this shit every day. And while we have some, God, amazing teachers, and I'll tell you, I'm the first to keep those amazing teachers. I want the amazing teachers. And I have yelled in IEP meetings at districts and principals and other people because of how they talk to a teacher in the IEP meeting. Like interrupting them. Shut the hell up. Let the teacher talk. I don't want to hear from you. I want to hear from her or him. Don't talk for them. They got voices. They need to be heard. They know more than you. You don't work with a child. Say that, y'all. You shut up. Let the teacher talk. You don't say shut up at first, but do I say shut up? Yep. If they keep talking, yeah, shut up. You don't work with my child. Let the teacher talk. The teacher's going to talk, not you, the teacher. Let the teachers talk. The teachers know your child. Don't let them be bulldozed into, what to say. Let the teachers know. I don't care if the school, I say it right up front. I don't care if the school district told you what to say. I know that you're a good person and I know that you're going to tell me what's going on. And who cares? I say it right to them. And granted, I know what they're thinking, but I mean, most of them do the right thing. And so you got to give the teachers credit for dealing with that dumb stuff. All right. So again, be specific, be specific, be specific. There's token reinforcers that you can think about. There's social reinforcers that you can think about. All kinds of things. All right. Extra privileges. I mean, it can be so simple as they get to pass out paper, and you want to make sure that they look at problem reducing strategies and that they look at that and that they identify, what that like problematic behavior is and address that. But we'll get into that tomorrow. Look, hour and a half. And it doesn't even seem that long. I told you, I got a problem. Okay. So I'm going to stop there. I'm going to put myself a little note. See, I got my sticky. And we will continue this because there's lots more to do with behavior. See this little puppy right here? Probably can't see him. Maybe you can. No. So you want to just think about it like this. Think of your BIP just like your IEP. All right. Think about your antecedent and your replacement behavior and your target behavior as your present levels. if that helps your mindset, Leo, then look at it like that. Because the BIP is a serious thing. And we'll talk about the emergency plan. And no, the emergency plan does not always have to do with restraints. And I will tell you my thoughts on that too. All right. And then you have to think about it. And then you have to make the decision for yourself. All right. And your child. All right. But I'll give you something to think about. All right. So I'm going to go through these. I've talked too long, guys. So I'm going to go through these comments. I promise. And yes, I have 3 spots available coming up. Not this month, but you need to book it this month. I have 1 person that's getting back to me, and then I'll only have 2 spots left. So you guys need to message me if you have any questions. Don't forget, we got ESY coming up. Time to start addressing that. It's that time of year, and do not allow them to say, oh, we only offer 5 weeks for 3 hours each day. That's great. Is that individualized, guys? Ask yourself that question. Is that we only offer, there's your key word right there. We only offer. No, it needs to be, we only offer what's needed and appropriate for your child. That's what we're going to offer. Okay. We're going to offer what's needed and appropriate for your child. So when they say we only offer 3 hours for 5 weeks, you say, no. Did you mean that you only offer what's needed and appropriate? That's individualized and catered towards my child and their needs? Is that what you meant? Yeah, that's what you meant. Yeah. All right. I will talk to you guys soon. Have a wonderful day. I promise I'll go through your questions. I promise I'll answer them. All right. And we're going to continue this. So I got you. All right. I'm not going to leave you. And this person, people that have this where I can't see your face, don't forget that you need to click this. Here, let me give it to you. It's the StreamYard link. And then you just click like yes or something because I'm streaming, and then you are able to, yeah, there you go. So click that, click yes, and then your picture will show up, and then you're good to go from here on out. All right. All right, guys. Okay, I posted it. It's posted. Okay. All right, guys. Have a wonderful evening, and I will talk to you guys soon, and we will talk tomorrow or Wednesday in reference to, no, sir, in reference to more behavior strategies, ways in which to implement healthy behavior plans. And we'll also talk about emergency plans. We'll talk about suspensions. We'll talk about kids going home early. We'll talk about all of those fun things. Okay? So you guys have a wonderful evening, and I will talk with you more than likely tomorrow, if not the next day. And also, if you haven't joined the group, go to Autism Mom Rocks IEP group in the Facebook group. It's a private group. And then make sure to like me on, or follow me. Is it like or follow? On TikTok. Also, I'm on Instagram and on YouTube. So I stream on YouTube and on Facebook. And I need to get better about Instagram. Not really my thing thus far, but I love TikTok. And so the only thing is I can't talk as long on TikTok. So that's kind of a problem for me. But it's still fun. All right, guys, have a wonderful evening, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye-bye.